Well, now we're going to start with some of our reminiscences and tributes. So we'll start with Karen Stoker.
Can you turn the lights on?
Usually when the lights come on and off and monitors around, something more exciting happens in my standing room. But I'll do my best. You're a tough act to follow, my dear. And my retrospect with modern is really short-lived when I look around the room and think of all the people that have known me for a really, really long time. But modern has had many evolutions that I learned about from many of the people that are in this room. And for a long time, really, honestly, probably close to 20 years, I didn't know that it was all the same person. So my friend Berger's here, and she talked about a friend of hers named Laylo, and you know, some of the stuff he did, and she is very creative and does lots of cool stuff, so she'd be working on something, I'd be watching, and she'd be talking about Laylo, and wow, he sounds really cool. And then, you know, I maybe visited with Strand, or another friend of mine was like, I went to high school with this guy who could have a pencil in each hand and look at you and draw your portrait all at the same time. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And someone else knows how to write backwards and whatever. And so it was Laylo, and then it was Modern Man and Modern, and I like to think I'm a good enough friend as my kids. And Raul Tanya too, we call him Mod. So I feel like we're really in the know because we've started to mod. And then there was this epiphany that happened in John Offit's studio. Well, there were probably several epiphanies that happened in John Offit's studio. But the one was the day that I figured out that it was all Modern Man. And we always passed in the night, you know, and we walk in the Empire and someone would say, oh, you just missed Modern Man. And that happened many times. So it was these elusive, wonderful, well, all these great stories, and I was so curious to meet him, and I still hadn't met him. When I went to the mailbox one day, probably 9 years ago now, modern, and I got my mail, and I was looking through some things, and there was a graphic on an envelope that looked a lot like the Rourke's. You know, they've got that pencil drawing of the Rourke Museum on the side of their envelope, and so I put it in that pile to look at, sorting through bills and things, and then I got to that pile and I opened it up, and it was on a piece of regular paper, and it was handwritten. I thought, well, you know, this is always fun to get something handwritten, and I opened it up, and I can't accurately describe in words without getting emotional the thrill that I had when I opened up this envelope, and it was all written in backwards. And so I ran to the bathroom mirror and I held it. I'm like, kids, you gotta come. It's a letter from Modern Man. And it was a letter wishing me well and lots of other nice things about taking on the project at the hotel. And that he heard that I might be doing things with art, and that if I was interested, that he'd be interested in selling me a piece of his work, which of course is also a really big deal because Modern doesn't sell a lot of his work. So here I was on my road to getting to know Modern, and I got a chance to be in his great studio, which I wish were still there so that we could all be there because it was a trip. There's magic in Modern, and I think the thing, as wonderful as his work is the interaction I've seen him have with my kids and what he's shared with me, and his tenacious natural curiosity and the wonderful childlike quality that he has. And there's of course a big difference between, you know, being childish and childlike, and I find his outlook on life so very, very inspiring. So I talked to him today, or a couple of days ago. I sent him an email asking, are you sure you want me to talk? And there are all these other people that have been there, and he said, yeah, but Karen, all the people that have known me a really long time wonder why I didn't get a real job and stop goofing around. And I laughed and I smiled, and then I stopped and I paused and I thought, how fortunate for all of us
who aren't wired like modern or like artists. You know, I've learned from many of them that there isn't really, you know, a choice. They have to do what they have to do, and it's more than just a calling. It's something that's just innate, inert. I mean, all of those things, that's part of them. And for those of us that are wired a little more regular way, or less interesting, less curious, less sparkly, to be able to have an opportunity not only to appreciate the work that someone like Modern does, but to be able to stop and appreciate the person that he is and what he brings to our community, and to the people that we know, like my kids, who wish they could be here. And another friend of mine who's an artist told me before I met Modern to add to the anticipation that he is the most relevant artist that we've ever had in this region. And I really don't know anything about art. I know what I like or what provokes me, or how I hope it can inspire other people by being surrounded by it. And Modern, you're a gift and a treat, and I love you and thank you so much.